with time. Uncorks it. Ashton Hawkins shakes and scores.
This is the Sikkim 365 radio postgame show.
Second and long scenario. Pete drops back. Doesn't have much time. Garmin Randolph makes quick work of him.
Now here's David Smoak.
And Garrett Ross runs the mothership, and my goodness, this is remarkable. Baylor just hammered Kansas 45-17. Baylor just hammered a team that had won 3 consecutive games against teams ranked in the top 25. Baylor just beat Kansas for the 14th consecutive time. Okay, during that time, a lot of people have beaten Kansas. But they dominate the game. They gave up some yards. They bent a little bit a couple of times early. Had a missed field goal by KU, that a touchdown. Baylor countered right away. Monterey Baldwin with 2 over-the-shoulder grabs from Sawyer Robertson. This was a blowout in some ways. KU could always just all of a sudden go 75, 80 yards. But Baylor, are you listening to me? Am I listening to me? Baylor has won 6 straight. They're 8-4. Baylor is 8-4. They're going to a bowl game. They'll know in a little over a week where they're going to play, who they're going to play. Doesn't matter. Sawyer Robertson over 300 yards. Running game again with, I don't know exactly what the total is. I hadn't checked, but nearly 300 yards. Bryson Washington, nearly 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dawson Pendergrass, who runs, and Garrett and I were trying to describe him. He's like running. He runs like an old beat-up farmer's truck that goes down those big white gravel roads, country roads, bolts popping off the. He runs. It's hard. It's like it's. Remember how we used to describe Utah up until this year's disappointment? It's like tackling a big ball of angry razor blades. That's what it's like. I'd love to hear from you today. This is the last game that Baylor will play until the bowl game. Here's what we are. We're on YouTube. We're on 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak, and that's Garrett Ross. Other games going on that we'll update you with, too. Close games around teams that are trying to get in the college football playoff. What you do is you jump in, and if you're in, let us know if you would like to come on and give us a comment. I want to hear from you. Now, there are some times when people do post games and they want to talk for 15 or 20 minutes. You know the style I have. Garrett's like that with me. We want to hear from you. I can talk for 15 or 20 minutes. That's not an easy. My God, that's what I get paid to do. And I've got some opinions. Devin Bobby, who had 2 interceptions, DeSoto's Devin Bobby will join us today as our post-game player to discuss the 6-game winning streak and another dominant win for Baylor as they are just on a tremendous, tremendous roll. How would you describe tackling or how the way Dawson Pendergrass runs? I just got off the phone with our great friend Phil Bennett. Phil Bennett, who continues to sit there when he talks about Baylor and say we. He was there, as you know, during their run with Art Briles and then gone. He's on with us every Monday on this show, 365 Sports, from 3 to 6 on Mondays. He's on with us at 5 o'clock. He actually reached out to me. He goes, my God, Baylor's dominating. And I picked up the phone and called him. And we started talking as I was driving over here to the studio. He was like, my God. I said, you know, one of the things, and you tell me right or wrong, one of the things I've noticed about this team, and give Vic Valoria, the strength and conditioning coach, and others credit, they weren't very good early. I don't know if they ever didn't play hard. They always do that. But you know what you talk about when you say, well, they play so hard. Usually that's a team that's losing. They're now beating people up. The offensive line is leaning on people. We always have mentioned that switch, 3 or 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, to Fugar at left tackle, who weighs like 300 and whatever you want to call it. The way that Josh Cameron makes the 50-50 catches and also physical after the catch. Saw Presley do that today. What Monterey, they're playing physical. And what Bryson Washington, who brings grace, speed, and also physicality to when he runs with the ball. Dawson Pendergrass, I love the guy. I covered the heck out of him when he was at Mineola. And there's no grace with him. It's just get out of my way. Caught a touchdown pass. Sawyer over 300 yards. The defense was fantastic. And so just a tremendous win. A tremendous win Hold on, Garrett. I got to give the Baylor your number. Hold on one second.
Okay.
I thought they already had it.
They should have.
Yeah, they did. They should. Okay, so Devin Bobby will join us here momentarily. So we want to hear from you. When we get Devin Bobby ready, we'll go to him. But I want to hear from you. Describe what you've seen now. Describe what you've seen now. How do you describe this Baylor football team? I'm typing this up as I'm doing all this. Baylor's football team. Go. All right. So I just said, tweet me how you describe this Baylor's football team. When they were 2-4, there was no difference in what we saw. Maybe the coaches say there was. Others maybe thought there was. They were no different than when they ended the year in 2022 in a mess, and they were no different than it looked like to me than they were 3-9. You saw glimpses. Like, for example, the way they were playing in Boulder until they melted down at the end. We saw glimpses in that game. The way they played after they fell down 28-7 to BYU and had the ball a couple of times at the end of the game to maybe do something with it. Or when they started 14-3 up on Iowa State. I describe this. This is not a miraculous turnaround. This is remarkable, though. I think that's a great way to look at it. How they are physical, how they have the glitz and the glamour. They're playing I saw Bryce Petty put up, this is kind of an Art Briles type offense when they were throwing the fades to Monterey Baldwin for 2 touchdowns to win the game, to take the lead after falling behind early 7-0. I'm going to jump on my Twitter feed. I'll try to look at what we have. Brad Richardson's 6-game winning streak. Just tell me. Let me know. What do you got?
All right, so we have a couple of people in here I want to try.
I want you to get on. Make sure you unmute your microphone. I want to hear from you. Go ahead.
All right, the first person I'm going to try is Rick. Rick, I'm coming to you, and you are up right now, Rick.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Rick. Thanks for the time.
Smokey, I don't know where to start. I'm so excited because I remember Spavital, sometime after he was hired, said that he wanted to get to a Briles type of offense, or at least aspects of it. And you just mentioned and brought that up. So I have to tell you, I can't tell you how excited I am that we have the coordinators that we have with him, with our, I think we really hit the nail on the head when we got this offensive line coach, even though he was our second choice. And if you add up the coaches that we got this year, the players we already had, and the fact that I think the coaches finally started making all this gel about 6 weeks ago, then it just took off. And I can't begin to say how excited I am for next year in the offense because everybody's coming back.
Yeah, they got to make sure that they do their job because there's some guys are going to be a part of that. Okay, I just had a hell of a year, and they'll keep them. GXG with what John Passavant and also Jeremy Fudge. They stepped up at last year when it looked like everyone was going to fall apart and leave. So they've got a little work to do there, and they will. But you're right, Rick. They have a lot of people back. This is a young team, a lot of people back, and they're playing with such confidence. Victor Ganoa on my Twitter feed just said a team that I would not want to play against right now. Rick, have you felt like this in a while? I know 21 was a special year, 12-2, best year ever. If I would have said, bet a body part that they would go to a bowl game when they were 2-4, would you have done that?
Nope. I absolutely I wouldn't have. And I wanted so bad for Aranda to turn it around because I really genuinely like him and think he's great for football and he's fantastic for Baylor. And for him to be able to get this turned around. And again, I do think the coordinators and the offensive line coach he hired to start this year made a huge difference and really were able to get the talent out of the players that they already had. And I think that just sets them up for all the recruits that were at the game today. My gosh, they ought to nail it on recruiting this year, and they ought to be just loaded for bear next year.
Yeah, and then guess what, Rick? Thanks for your call, buddy. We really appreciate you leading us off. National Signing Day is on Wednesday of this week. So they play this game. They clear their season. They're 8-4. Take a little bit of a deep breath because it's going to be maybe, 3 weeks or so, maybe longer. Who knows? Until you're in a bowl game. But you have now to seal down this class that's one of the better classes they've had in a long, 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 long time. And maybe they add an extra name or two along the way. Who knows? Because you see players flipping between now and next Wednesday. Rick, great for the call. Thanks for the call. Garrett, anybody else?
Not yet.
Okay. If this is David Smoak, I am, not this. I'm David Smoak. Garrett Ross is running the mothership, and we're watching all sorts of games. You have Army trying to seal their win against UTSA, by the way. That's going to end up with a one-loss team before they play Navy in a couple of weeks. Michigan and also Michigan and Ohio State. This thing was bang, bang. I mean, early on, Michigan led 10-3. That game is still tied at 10. Michigan has the football at the Buckeyes' 9-yard line with 2 minutes left. And they're 6-5. Ohio State's 10-1. Looked like they'd punched their ticket to the college football playoff. It's 3rd and 2, Michigan. Michigan, the defending national champions. Will Howard threw an early pick that was ugly that set up an easy score for Michigan. Ohio State missed an easy field goal. I cannot imagine. We're talking Baylor. We're talking Baylor. But I cannot imagine what it would be like for Ryan Day if they go 10-1 but lose to Michigan at home today. At home today. And it's now 1st and goal, Wolverines at the Ohio State 4 with 1:55 to go. I can't even imagine.
They're going to fire him if he loses this game.
Well,
they'll find a way.
They'll
find a way.
And again, this is one of those things. Are they already in like Joe Tessitore last night during Georgia Tech? How many times if Georgia wins the game? There's nobody have locked in anything. If anyone's done it, maybe it's Oregon because they've beaten everybody else and they're number one. I don't know. I mean, this would be an absolute kick in the if you're Ohio State and Ryan Day. Tennessee was down 17-7 or so, 14-0 to Vanderbilt. They're now rolling 36-17, 8 minutes to go in that game. South Carolina is inside the Clemson red zone, down 4 with 2 minutes left in the game. We know South Carolina is also a red-hot team. We will hear from Devin Bobby here, in just a little bit. He had 2 picks. How about that timing? Brett Ingram, media relations with Baylor, sent me that note back a week ago. Said, hey, Devin Bobby's your post-game interview. And he ends up with an early pick. And then also Garrett told me when I was driving over to the studio, he picked up a couple of more picks as well. Let me get back to my Twitter feed and see what Jackson Mars. A Memphis-Baylor game would be one heck of a matchup right now. Yeah, Memphis just beating Tulane 34-17 or whatever it was, 34-24, whatever the score was on Thanksgiving night. From Ryan, so hot right now. Moose, resilient. This is from Man Koala Pig. 2012 vibes, big things coming. We have brought that up. Phil Bennett brought that up. Remember, they came off that RG3 Heisman Trophy team, and then they end up winning the Alamo Bowl, and that nuts. Like, you had to go take a shower or maybe smoke a cigarette after that game down in San Antonio. What was it with Washington? Like 57-50, whatever. Terrence Ganaway had the monster game. And then they started slowly. They couldn't stop anybody on defense. And Nick Flores actually broke the record for most passing yards in a season, but then they played in the Holiday Bowl against UCLA. They ended up like basically all but running the last half of the season, running the table, and smoked UCLA, threw only like 11 passes in that game, pounded them. And that's what this team has, a little bit of that. Scotty B, determination. John McClain, balanced. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, balanced, exciting, and also on a roll. So those are some of the things that you have brought up today to me on my Twitter feed, and you can keep doing that if you don't mind. And I don't know, did we put up the link in the forums?
Yes.
Let me see here what we got here. Game day thread. Pre-game show. They're 8-4, and they lost one game on basically a Hail Mary. And then lost in overtime and a fumble at the goal line. They're 8-4. I've always been a little bit more conservative when I've been asked to take a team. I don't care if it's Baylor or Team X, Y, and Z. Coming off a year like last year at 3-9, to me, my whole thing is you got to walk before you run. I said that back in 2010 when they became bowl eligible for the first time in 16 or 17 years. And they went 7-6, lost to Illinois in the bowl game. Then the next year, 10-3. And then, of course, they had the nice run, including 2012, the way they finished that year we just mentioned. Garrett?
All right, we have David. David, I'm putting you on. You have yourself muted. Please unmute yourself. David, you're up.
David, are you there? You have to unmute yourself if you're listening to the show. All right?
All right.
Nope, not there. Okay? 254. Oh, I almost started giving a phone number like we're on the radio here. Josh Carson, 2012. That's the second person to bring that up. Josh, on my Twitter feed, thank you very much. See what else I have. This is from Frank Smoky. This is absolutely remarkable. That's the great word to use. It's not miraculous, but I think some people might say that. After 2-4, then you lose that game the way you did in gut-wrenching fashion. You didn't know how to win because you couldn't close against Colorado. And we saw, for about 3.5 quarters, we saw what we see now and what we've seen for the last 6 weeks. We saw that really even more dynamic now. We saw that at Colorado. And then you looked at Colorado back then and you go, okay, well, they might be a bowl team. Colorado had a heck of a year. And Baylor was winning that game in Boulder, remember? So we saw a glimpse of that during that time, but they just couldn't finish. But we saw a little bit of what we're seeing now, right now with the Baylor football team. Let me get some stats to you. And we're waiting for Devin Bobby to join us at some particular time. I want to read these stats. I'm going to guess Baylor had 580 yards of total offense. I'm guessing there, okay? I'm going to guess that's what they had. Team stats, Baylor, 603 yards. Kansas had 491. They moved the ball up and down the field. Their first drive, boom, 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 missed field goal. Next drive, boom, 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 touchdown. And then they had another one. And then they had a drive maybe towards the end of the third quarter. Paxton even sent me a text. He goes, man, Baylor was gashing them, and all of a sudden, KU, boom, 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 boom. But at the time, the game was over. It was 35-17 after Kansas scored in the third quarter. Baylor, this is insane. 13 of 17 on third downs. Garrett, have you ever seen that before?
No, that's ridiculous.
There maybe that's been – Kansas was 5 of 10. Baylor was 13 of 17 on third downs. They also forced a couple of turnovers, 2 picks, and also recovered a fumble. Matt Jones recovered a fumble after, oh my goodness, who was it? Stripped 27 for Baylor, stripped the receiver down the sideline, and Matt Jones recovered. So they won the turnover battle 3-0 today against Kansas. The strip fumble was by Tevin Williams. His father's really very active on Twitter, Tevin Williams Sr. Sawyer Robertson, 23 of 31, 310 yards, 4 touchdowns. You think he answered the bell after last week's really erratic performance against Houston when he threw 3 picks? Jalen Daniels had 280 yards passing, but he threw 2 picks. Bryson Washington, I'm so happy for this young man. Watched him play, watched what he did at Franklin. Franklin was always pretty good, and then they got really good. And he was a part of that run when they, I think, lost in the state championship. Then they won a couple in a row. And then maybe his senior year, he won it again. 192 yards on 28 carries for Bryson Washington and 2 scores.
He also, with that, became the first Baylor freshman to rush for over 1,000 yards in a career.
1,000 yards. And you think about some of the names they've had, from dating back to Alfred Anderson, among others. Sometimes players used a little bit differently. He's also pretty good out of the backfield. Monterey Baldwin. I don't know if I should tell this story or not. I think I will. I got to sneeze, Garrett. Hold on. Oh. There we go. That's good live stuff, huh? We got these there's a cough button, not a sneeze button. Golly. By the way, South Carolina just took the lead on Clemson, 17-14 late in that game. South Carolina, the Gamecocks are rolling too, by the way. All right, so last year when Baylor was off to such a dreadful start, and, I mean, they were getting beat up. They lost that first game. What was it, the Texas State and G.J. Kinney, and it was just bad. It was bad. And I'm gonna share this story now, and I don't know how much validity is in something that I was told, But Monterey Baldwin came up. He was at the podium. I've known him, not like he and I texted, but I covered him when he was at Shoemaker High School and a hell of a player in high school. But I've known him for quite some time. Oh my God, Michigan threw a pick at the goal line. Oh, that's still in the fourth quarter. They were up 10, they were tied 10-10 and threw a pick at the goal line. Wow.
Neither team wants to win that
But they
game.
just kicked a field goal. And is that game final? There's still a little bit of time left. Just a little bit of time left. Okay, so Monterey Baldwin's at the podium in the postgame. And it was bad. And so I thought I heard him say something to the effect. By the way, if you're in watching, we appreciate your time. Let Garrett know. Find a way. Show him however you do that on YouTube. If you want to get on, like Rick was on with us to start the show. Let us know, but you have to unmute your microphone. I absolutely want to hear from as many of you as we can for the next few minutes. So I asked Monterey Baldwin, based on what he had said about everybody being on the same page, everybody being together, I took it, and I'm not one of the, I'm not a shock jock. I'm not going to ever make something up if I don't have pretty good due diligence and have sources to tell a story or to report something. But I swear, I thought basically what he was saying is that he had some players that had already turned it in. This was, I think, somewhat early in the year, maybe mid-season. And I asked him, are you telling me there's some guys that have quit on this team? Now, there are some, if you're a little bit fragile or you're offended by everything, you're like, oh my God. No, I got to tell you, I thought that's what he meant. And I was told that he got off the podium after that, finished up his time, and he basically cussed me. And that's from somebody within the Baylor football program. And I called his coach at Shoemaker, Toby Foreman, who I've known a long, long time. He said, no, he would never do. Smokey, he knows you. Well, maybe he did. But you know what, Monterey, if you did, okay, you played your ass off today. He had 7 catches, 119 yards. The first touchdown catch was very tough, tight quarters, right side near the pylon of the end zone, and the next one was a beautiful throw by Sawyer again. Back-to-back touchdowns on those drives to give Baylor the lead, and they never looked back. Garrett?
All right, Tad Crossland. Tad, I'm bringing you up. You're going to have to unmute yourself. You are up right now. Unmute yourself.
Tad, unmute yourself. Do I need to have a poster board or something like that that says unmute?
All right, you're going back just to listen.
Oh, my goodness. That's okay. We want you to listen. I'm going to write this down here, Garrett. Unmute. Can you get close enough to that? Does that make sense, or is that, yeah, there you go. Unmute. Unmute. Hey, Baylor's 8-4. Baylor's won 6 in a row. They just beat a team. I opened up this post game with this. They just beat a team that had beaten 3 consecutive ranked teams. 3 of them had created chaos, really, for some teams in the Big 12. And Baylor wins 45-17. They scored 35 points from the second and third quarter to blow that thing open, and they end up with 603 yards. And Rick mentioned this, Jake Spavital, what he's done. Aranda and Powledge and company on defense, what they've done. Mason Miller with the offensive line making those moves about 5 games into the season. Garrett?
All right, I'll try this again. PBJ. PBJ, you are up. Unmute yourself.
PBJ, you there?
They're staying muted.
Okay, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Oh, well, that's fine. That's okay. Mason Miller, offensive line coach, when they made a decision to move Fugar to left tackle, and he was in the rotation at left guard, I've had a couple of coaches on staff say that, they did that, and he's a big dude. By the way, he's a transfer from South Carolina, and it all fit. All of a sudden, it just fit. And look what they've done. Now, that's not the only thing, but for some reason it fit. Gave, obviously, protection on the backside, gave a little muscle. Remember that play against Oklahoma State when Dawson Pendergrass, Baylor had the lead. Oklahoma State, I think, had cut it to something. And Dawson Pendergrass around midfield got tied up in a scrum, and then all of a sudden he got popped loose. That was Fugar who, basically grabbed him and led him through the scrum. And plays like that have been amazing for this Baylor football team during this streak. This is from I always say Agbegbo, bought in. The team is bought in. That's pretty simple. That's a pretty simple way of doing it. This is from R.J. Derb on, let me see here. Tweet me how to describe Baylor's football team. Luke Fletcher, disappointing. I have no idea why you would. Is this a? Trying to think if Luke is like somebody else. Disappointing. 8-4. If I would have said to you, and I know there's always a few people that like wear the green and gold, and people who have analyst work, whatever. If I would have said to you that Baylor would go 8-4 back in August, some of you who were like seeing things in the wrong color because you're homers. We don't bring that here. There's some people that think because we're Sick'em365.com or whatever. I never would have said 8-4. Never would have thought this team could get to 8-4, and they have. Now, okay, all right, now we've won 6 in a row. Let's go win a bowl game. And then you start talking about a team that might win 9 games. They could end up 8-5. They could win 9 games. And think about how many teams from the time in 2010 when they went 7-6, yes, 10-3, and then those teams that won a couple of Big 12 titles, the 12-2 team in 2021 that was just unbelievable. Clemson and Ohio State are down. They're both lost.
Done.
Michigan just beat Ohio State, and they were 6-5. And Will Howard, the quarterback that transferred in from Kansas State, threw that awful pick early, got knocked out for a little bit, and Michigan has just beaten Ohio State 13-10 in an old slobber knocker. The Big Ten has games like that. Iowa, Nebraska was 13-10. Former Nebraska coach Matt Rule with a devastating loss last night, but they are going to a bowl game. Michigan just beat Ohio State 13-10, and South Carolina is just rolling. Speaking of rolling, Baylor's won 6 in a row. Bowl game coming up at some point. We're joined by former DeSoto star and Baylor defensive back Devin Bobby with me, David Smoak. Devin, how you doing, young man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. When I was told you're going to be our post-game interview even a few days ago, and then all of a sudden all you do is go out and get a couple of picks. So you must have known you were the star of the game before the game started.
No, I didn't. I just went out there and just played hard for my teammates, and we came out with a great win. That's what happened.
Can you please try to describe what is going on and what's happened during these 6 games you've won in a row?
We just decided after the Colorado game, we just decided that we're not gonna take nothing. We're gonna work hard, put our head down, grind for each other, and just play all 4 quarters, special teams, offense, defense, and that's what we've shown.
Devin, you come from lineage where you're used to winning at DeSoto with the coaches there, and of course what Claude Mathis has brought to the table and Coach Peterman before that. That's a place that is used to playing for state titles and now winning them, and you are a part of helping that program grow to that point. How hard was it for you going through 3-9, 2-4, and how much of it did just like finally you got fed up with it?
It was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard going through it, but just you got to keep pushing, keep moving forward, and just we got next play mentality. So, like I said, yeah, it was hard, but I'm glad that we finally turned it around.
I'm guessing that after you guys finally won a game after that 2-4 start, 3-4, then 4-4, maybe some of those wins, and I know that there were some times when you guys had to really enjoy, especially the win in Lubbock, and then whatever else you did along the way. But is it now almost like this is who you are, and it doesn't mean you don't enjoy it, but it's just next man up, next game up, let's go? Or was there a big celebration after this one?
Of course, we celebrated each other, but we know we still have work to put in. We still have things that we got to fix that happened throughout the game. So we're going to enjoy this win and get back to work, watch film, get back to work.
Jalen Daniels is really talented. You have a quarterback that's playing at a ridiculous level in Sawyer, but Jalen Daniels can chew people up. And you know what they did the last 3 weeks with ranked teams they won. He threw for 280, but also threw the 2 picks to you. And it looked like they moved the ball early, but you guys never really broke. They scored an early touchdown, but you never really broke. What was the game plan entering the game?
The game plan in the game was starting fast because we know that Kansas started fast on the first 2 drives and they were scoring on their opponent. So emphasis was starting fast and just having great eyes. So, they like doing misdirection things, motioning, so to get your eyes messed up. So we're just trying to start fast.
Devin, I said this during the game on my Twitter feed that your team, both on offense and defense, has now become a team that imposes your will on people. Yeah, that nothing's perfect. There are warts on both sides of the ball, but you guys have become a very physical football team. How did that happen?
It's always been there. We just had to come together as a team. We just had to understand who we're playing for each other, playing for our coaches, playing for the city, and we just finally realized enough is enough, and we're just trying to get 11 men to the ball every play.
What does all this mean? Besides, like you said, okay, we won today. We're 8-4. I'm talking about you, Baylor, and you're 8-4. Now you wait for a bowl game. What does it mean when things do start to click? And what's it like? Does the food taste better? Do you sleep better? What's it like?
Everything is better when you win. When I say everything, things out the field, obviously on the field, it's a good feeling when you win, and people are happy to see you win.
You had 2 picks. Can you take me through both of them? I saw the first one. You were there. Yeah, I know part of it got blocked. Came back with what they called a blindside hit. But kind of take me through both those plays and what you saw.
Both in plays, I was a post safety. Going back to what I said earlier, having great eyes. That was emphasis this week playing going against Kansas, having great eyes, and I trusted my keys, having great eyes, and I read the quarterback, and he threw me too.
Devin, would you want to face your offense? I know you do in practice, but would you want to face what that offense is right now on the other side of the ball?
Yeah, like you said, I do face them in practice, but yeah, them guys on that side of the ball, they real nice. It's definitely competition going on at practice all the time, man. They get us better, we get them better, and it shows on game day.
How important was last week in Houston when the offense had some turnovers and it just was a tough grind, but the defense is what set the table and won the game? For you guys to go out and pick up your offense that weekend.
It was a good feeling for the defensive ball. That's why we harp on playing complimentary football because, just like last week, the offense might not be doing too good. That's why our defense had to step up, have their back just like they have our back. And that's what we did, and we came out with a win.
Hey, Devin, congratulations, man. 2 picks today, 8-4. Do you care who you play and when you play or what bowl you're in?
And no, I don't care. Whoever we got, we're going to step it up and we're going to get it on.
My last question. Dave Aranda, as we know, took over the offense and, in a way, still the head coach, but took over a lot. You still have everybody else's there, including Matthew Pallett, who handles you guys, among others, in the secondary. How would you describe the difference in Dave Aranda this year than last year?
I would say that we're more focused on ball, just being intentional with everything we do on and off the field, focusing just more on ball and executing, and that's what we've done, and it's shown.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Devin. Appreciate your time, Devin.
Appreciate
Bobby.
you.
Yes, sir. You too. DeSoto football lineage, DNA, as they say. And DeSoto, of course, in that same district with Duncanville, and they've won back-to-back, both of them, state championships at the highest level in the same district. And what a great district it is. And they just now expect to be playing in that last weekend of high school football in December. There's games going on, in fact, this afternoon right now in Texas high school football. All right. Anyone else, Garrett?
I'm going to try this one more time.
All right. Let me say this first. If you're listening, and I don't know why you would be watching me on screen without the audio up. If you're listening and you hear your name, Garrett's going to call your name. That means we're going to try to go to you, but you have to unmute your mic. If, in fact, you have something you'd like to say, we'd love to have you on the postgame show.
All right, first person that gets opportunity is B. B, you are up. Please unmute your mic.
B, are you there?
All right, no B.
Nope.
I'm going to come to David.
David, we'll go to you again, try to get you on. David, are you there?
Unmute your mic, David. You're up.
Yeah, you there?
No.
I don't understand this part of it. This is I've seen,
I know.
I was old enough. I'm old enough, Garrett, where they had typewriters.
Correct.
Now we have laptops. I'm old enough where we had 8-track tapes and even reel-to-reel, and there was a thing called albums and 45s, right, when there was records. Now everything's digital, right?
Correct.
And if I can get the unmute part of it, I don't understand what's so hard about it. But maybe they're just listening and they want to be a part of watching what we're doing in the postgame. I don't know. I'm just like, oh my God. We'd love to hear from you, but oh well. That's the way it is. Let me see. Let me go to one more source for some postgame comments. Dave Aranda, Coach of the Year. Nope. He's done a hell of a job. He like the football team, was in a muddy ditch, and one tire had popped off and the axle was broken. Wouldn't you think? At 2-4.
Yep.
They found a way. I don't know if they got a big oxen or an elephant or what it was, or a tow truck that dug him out of the ditch. And his career now 8-4. So 2-7, 12-2, 6-7. And that ended after they were at one point, what was it? It's like 6-2. And then 3-9. And the Jedi and the Master and the all the things that we heard and others described him as being. Now the shine was off. It's like a battery. It's like a flashlight that has low batteries. It's kind of like the dim. Everything was dim. It just like now you watch this team. It's stupid good how they're playing. Like stupid good. And if you weren't on the start of the postgame show, Phil Bennett texted me when that game was winding down. I was on my way to the studio from McLean Stadium. And I don't think he'd mind me telling you. I'll read the text. It wasn't very long. Baylor is dominating this game. These coaches have done an absolutely great job. And he joins us. He'll be on with us Monday at 5. And he's like blown away by what he's seen. And then again, you got to be patient. And you just never know when it clicks. There are some teams in the high school football playoffs in Texas that lost 2 or 3 games in non-district and maybe lost a game late in the year, but in the playoffs, and now they're hot. How about South Carolina, how hot they are? How about other teams around the country and how hot they are? And Baylor's a part of that. They're not a top 10 team. They may not even be a top 25 team. They did get a vote from a coach in the top 25 last week, but they're 8-4. And there's a lot of teams that are in a free fall. And they've won 6 in a row, including 45-17, as they beat down KU in that game. Let me update final scores and games that aren't quite yet final in the top 25. Tennessee, with 2.5 minutes to go, up 13 on Vanderbilt. They were at one point down in that game by a couple of scores. Miami, they just kicked off with Syracuse. Penn State, Maryland just kicked off. SMU, Cal right now, watching that game, they just kicked off too. Finals from today: Illinois 38, Northwestern 28, Michigan. Can you imagine Ohio State fans and what they think about Ryan Day right now? That one loss was was it a 1-point loss to Oregon?
It was a 3-point loss to Oregon.
And Will Howard slid, and he had it was over. But they rattled off some nice wins. Now they had some shaky wins too, like for example against Nebraska about a month ago. Can you imagine, Ryan? Have you ever had when you were 7 years old, or now like me, 65? When you know you've kind of, like something happened that you weren't expecting to happen, and you know that every single person on earth is looking at you, and you get that kind of hot feeling on your face because you're in trouble? That's right. Oh, my God. And one of the first things, instead of everyone going, what a freaking win for Sherrod Moore and Michigan, what a win for them, everyone's going to go, okay, wait a minute. What about Ohio State? Now, they can't. Are they still in the playoff? They don't care about that right now. Yeah, maybe they are. Maybe they win it. I don't know. But good God. And then South Carolina, now 9-3, they scored with 1:09 left in the game to beat Dabo and Clemson. They've now won 6 in a row after they lost 3 games in 4 weeks to LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama when all of them were ranked. Are LSU ranked anymore?
They're ranked. Yeah, they're ranked like way off in there, like the 20s.
20s. But so they lost 3 of those 4 games in a stretch back in, I guess it was in September and in October.
And they had the LSU and Alabama games won, but Lenore Sellers got hurt against LSU, and then he threw that crucial interception against Bama.
Yeah,
they could have won
in the end zone,
yep.
right?
Yep.
27-25, they lost that game. They lost by 3 against LSU at home. Ole Miss smoked them pretty good at 24-27 to 3. So some of the games. Now, let me go quickly to the Big 12 scoreboard, and then we'll wrap it up, Garrett, because I know you want to get home to family. And then I'm going to get back to some leftover turducken with crawfish and shrimp jambalaya. In the Big 12 today, Texas Tech was dominating West Virginia, and they win that game 52-15. Baron Morton, 359 and 2 scores. Taj Brooks, 188 yards and 3 touchdowns. Josh Kelly, 9 catches for 153 yards. They led 35-3 over Neil Brown at West Virginia at halftime and won 52-15. And you got to wonder about Neil Brown and what's going on at West Virginia. Arizona State, Arizona just kicked off tonight. TCU, Cincinnati, K-State, Iowa State, Farmageddon, and then Houston late tonight against BYU. Yesterday, Colorado beat Oklahoma State 52-0, and Utah did beat UCF 28-14. And today, Baylor hammered Kansas 45-17, 603 yards, and they forced 3 turnovers on defense. For Garrett Ross, thank you to our great sponsors. Thank you for jumping on. We'll have something, we hope, depending on wherever they go bowling, against whom and wherever that might be. I'm David Smoak. Enjoy the rest of your college football weekend, and good afternoon.